Hello everyone, it's me, the Boss Hog. This is part 3 of finding that motivation, seeing how we've done across the last week. Let's do it. Alright, so similar format to last week, just updated on my rag statuses, and actually honestly a fairly good week. I'm quite happy with a number of things. So this I've actually gone from red to amber in a week, so it feels pretty good to basically move up 2 because of how I am classing that. Really there were a couple of things for this. First of all, I was a lot better with my use of time over the last week. And secondly, my existing job I did some good work on actually. Worked on a handover plan, spent some time reviewing some technical setups to sort of, again, enable whoever succeeds me to hit the ground running. So broadly just felt like I was actually adding some good value in my current work as well. Outside of those specific things, in terms of my aims or my commitments, I suppose is more accurate. I'll just go through these nice and quickly then. So investments, I decided to leave this light green. Technically, there is one green above this. But I didn't have any investments this week. That was planned. On the good side, though, I didn't sort of waste any time, opening up my portfolio too often or anything like that. The markets are really rough at the moment, and honestly, I'm not enjoying watching the direction of the markets. I know sometimes these things happen, and ultimately I'm not panicking, which is also obviously a good thing. So another reason to be green, but it doesn't feel good, right? I don't know how else to put it for anyone who's not investing. For anyone who is investing, you probably get it as well. So I decided to leave this positive because of how I'm reacting and the fact that it was always the plan not to put in any money this week. Next up, we got some family time. There were 2 days here. So first of all, my wife and I swapped turns doing inset days that my daughter occasionally has from her nursery. So we basically just take the day off and have quality time with our daughter. So that was fun. We basically went out for the day, shopping effectively, and we did some cooking as well. So that was nice. Again, she really likes helping in the kitchen. And then on Saturday, we basically had 2 reasons to go out on Saturday. First of all, it was fairly nice weather. And secondly, my daughter's going to be starting school next September. But this October, we've got a trip basically to school to sort of like see how it is, tour it, etc., etc. So we just wanted to make sure that the logistics worked. And so we were just sort of testing the local environment, local pubs, cafes, buses, etc. So that went nice and well. And actually, our daughter had a little sleep. So my wife and I found a nice pub and had a good lunch. And then, we just basically spent it in Greenwich Park when little one was awake again. So again, quality time on the day. So definitely a green one now. I was actually tempted to make this dark green just because I had a couple of days, but decided more light green was probably accurate. Friend catch up, again, this was kind of on the cusp of turning into dark green. So I put the initials here of the people that I caught up with. So DM is technically a recruiter. That's how I first met them from my current job. But I get on with him quite well. We're very similar kind of where we're at in our lives. We seem to have good compatible personalities. It was a kind of semi-working, semi-catch-up, but to be honest with you, it was mostly catch-up rather than sort of like, recruiter, etc. So I count this as like a friend catch-up. I wouldn't quite class him as a friend at this stage, but I could easily see it moving in that direction, so that felt great. And the other person here, MG, I know they're quite active in watching my videos, so thank you. This is also somebody I used to work with, but actually get on with very well outside of work. I also talked to them about sort of financial advice. So before I went into telecoms as a career, I was going to be a financial advisor. So it's interesting to me also looking at somebody who's 20 years ahead of me, and has kind of got their shit together in terms of investments, etc. And we're starting to like look at what the best way for them to sort of enter into retirement is and that kind of stuff. And to be honest with you, he's done the whole kids things, wife thing, etc. So it's good to catch up with somebody who I consider just a nice bloke, as well as sort of, an aspiration in many ways. And also, he was quite concerned because I think, we haven't had a decent catch up for a couple of years, and then he stumbled across my videos and he was like, well, let's talk about this. So that was, again, good to chat about. I would say since I've started doing these videos, my motivation has improved. So that was encouraging for him, but still good to talk anyway, right? Like, I think once you're a bloke who gets to like 30 and probably 40, I'm not there yet, but you have a very small social group most of the time, so sometimes it can just be good to talk to men who have been through a similar kind of journey that you have potentially. So I enjoyed both of those catch-ups legitimately, and so yeah, I've got stuff planned for the next week as well. In terms of my new job hunting, this has now turned from amber to light green. It's still fairly early days, but I had my first interview yesterday that I think went solidly. Honestly, I thought it was a bit of an easy interview. I thought it was going to be more technically probing, but it was the first interview, so maybe follow up conversations with the more technical or the commercial people will examine things a bit more. But the person who I was talking to would be my potential future boss. We seem to get on very well, so actually I'm quite optimistic of getting at least a second interview for that. And on this Friday, I have a first interview with a different company, so we'll see how that goes as well. That's starting to happen now, and again, I'm having positive conversations with recruiters about my expectations, what I'm looking for, etc. And I'm being quite picky on the jobs I'm applying for just to make sure I don't waste time. And what I do is quite niche, even within a niche area. So it's like, okay, well, I don't want to waste too much time. So I don't really expect to have too many interviews, but the interviews I have should be quite good, is sort of how I'm approaching my job hunt at the moment. But so far, I've been relatively encouraged. Poker, so my plan here is to actually play every other week. But this was the second week in a row I played, so that felt good. This was actually off the back of a night out with DM, as in the friend catch up. So we decided that it was Friday night, we would go to the casino. Actually, he didn't end up playing just because it was absolutely rammed, and he ended up going home about 2 a.m. But that was literally when a poker seat opened up, so I decided to stay and play to about 6. Played for 4 hours. Honestly, really enjoyed the evening. Again, I nearly made this dark green because I played solid. It's an extra session, etc. But I just decided it was sort of too low a bar to turn it dark green. But I was happy with how I played, and actually what I will say is I sat with one of the friendliest, most enjoyable poker tables I've ever played at. Even dealers were making remarks that it was just a really friendly bunch. I did name exchanges with like half the table. I got invited to a home game. It was just like a really good dynamic, and the players were like solid without being either really crap or really great. So it just felt like a very kind of sociable way to play poker, which isn't always what you get in like casinos, right? People are there to spend money or make money or be a bit frivolous. Sometimes there's egos as well, which can sort of clash and make it interesting, but not necessarily nice. Whereas this was more like just a really friendly atmosphere, so that was good. I've only had one other table that was even approaching it, so that was a nice surprise, honestly, and the fact I won was nice as well. I think I played solid, nothing special, and my luck was in the middle. I sort of missed a couple of things, but then I had a big hold in probably the pot of the evening for like 400 quid or 350. So that was the important pot basically to make money that evening. So broadly speaking, it was a fine evening, and the extra session was great. Cooking, I actually downgraded this to amber. I did do a cooking session, but it was a relatively mild one as I would class it. So I bought a big piece of Cote d'Ivoire steak, which is one of my favorite cuts, probably my favorite cut of beef, to be honest. And I had it over 3 sessions, but I cooked it in one go. I've only just about got a pan big enough for it. The challenge I did give myself is I reverse seared it or reverse grilled, depending on your definition. But normally with like meat, you would grill it first and then put it in the oven. I decided to try it the other way around. There are pros and cons of it, but actually by doing it this way, I did end up with a beautifully crisp outside. The only thing is I slightly overcooked it, so it was a bit closer to medium than the medium rare as it should be. But still, I was still quite happy with it considering I don't normally cook steak in that way. And then I just did it with like some basic vegetables and salad. So I decided that this didn't quite hit the benchmark that I need to have like a good cooking session. But it was nice to cook what is my, like I say, my favorite cut of meat, and I didn't ruin it, so that was good. In terms of weight, I've left this red. I'm still struggling with this one just to kind of get the motivation. I will say I did one exercise, so that was good. That's my first workout in honestly about 8 weeks. However, I did have like a few sessions like takeaways, etc. So I think sort of it was broadly still a bit rubbish. I must say this today, like I've worn this shirt a little bit. It feels quite nice and it feels quite loose today. So I'm kind of optimistic that at least I'm moving very slowly in the right direction. And I have technically lost 200 grams, but that's like nothing in the scheme of things. So I've decided to leave this red. It is something that I'm struggling with at the moment. I think just where I'm a bit tired and kind of being a bit spread thin. Takeaways and snackage is a very easy solution, unfortunately. So again, I'm hoping this will improve as I feel better more generally and free up some time. Reading similar, I left this red. I continue to read newspapers most days. I did also read a scientific journal, just because I'm quite interested in a few things going on at the moment with James Webb, as well as a few other things. So that was, I guess, good. But I didn't really do much reading, as well as the strategic book I mentioned previously. I have picked up an investment book, a recommendation actually from one of my viewers, so thank you for that. And but so far it's just sitting on my sofa ready to read rather than having actually been read. So again, I hope to make some progress on this in the medium term. And chess here, this is arguably my biggest improvement, considering last week I realized I'd wasted 13 hours basically playing chess fairly mindlessly. So two big improvements. First of all, the number of hours went from 13 to 2, and those 13 hours were much more constructive. So I spent an hour basically doing puzzles, typically focusing on the end game, where I think I'm solid, but there's definitely some nice tricks and stuff that you can exploit. And then 1 hour on Grunfeld, which is basically it's a chess opening. And even then, it's one of my favorite chess openings. I think it's very dynamic for both white and black. It's quite a new variation where black basically gives up the center to strike from the flanks and gets an extremely powerful bishop, and white's job is to kind of nullify that bishop or bypass it and block the center and preserve what becomes a very powerful center. So it ends up being quite an exciting game where white wants to push through the middle and black typically wants to push through on the queen side, supported by that powerful bishop. And even within this Grunfeld study, I really focused in on white's reply to it, as well as focusing even down more on specifically how you should make use of the queen side rook and your white bishop. So that was, which is an interesting one for me. So the queenside rook often becomes quite an important defensive piece because it's attacked by the powerful black bishop. And the white bishop, it's quite interesting because it can either be used in attack and brought out early or in defense to protect the king. So there's two approaches to that. And to be honest with you, I'd like to do a bit more studying on the Grunfeld. Like I said, I really enjoyed playing it and playing against it. I think it's a really fun opening. So I'll probably actually put a bit more study into more broad concepts of Grunfeld. So, but in fairness, yeah, I didn't actually play any proper games. I just did study. So that was to me a much more valuable use of my mental energy in chess. So like I say, overall I feel much better this week. Definitely most things are moving in a positive direction. I'd still like to do stuff about my weight and reading, but now I feel like I have a more solid platform, and even with the weight there probably was a little bit of improvement. Reading, okay, I probably need to buckle down on that a little bit, but I don't want to beat myself up too much when actually, broadly speaking, I think this is a positive week, and that's what I'm going to take from it. So thank you again for all the nice messages, concern, support, etc. Happy to take questions, and again, hopefully this is enjoyable or you're gaining something from it. So thank you very much for watching, everyone, and good luck with your motivation. Bye for now.